Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video is answering a question I see asked plenty on the Facebook groups, in our Discord server, even in local communities around me, and that is for people getting into Warhammer Age of Sigmar or wanting to get a new army for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and that is, what is a good cavalry army that's not only fun and can play all cavalry, but is actually good on the table, like will actually play well. And there could be a multitude of reasons that people are asking this. It could be, I mean, as we've got the picture up, we've got an old picture of Bretonnia here. Maybe they were fans of Bretonnia back in Warhammer Fantasy and are looking for an Age of Sigmar army to scratch that itch. So I'm going to go through a list of 5 all-cavalry armies that can work and are fun and are good on the tabletop. None of these are probably tournament winning lists, though some of them might be in the case of particular ones, but the idea is these armies are all going to be at least good on the tabletop and give you a chance of winning most of your games. These are definitely not a list of any permanent ones, and these are definitely not a list of the only ones. I've limited it down to 5, so I'm not continuing to ramble on for hours and hours about different lists with slightly different builds and slightly different models. So I've taken 5 armies with all cavalry that I think are great in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So here it is, 5 armies that are great all cavalry armies. So first off in our list of 5 great factions for an all cavalry force, we have the Cities of Sigmar. Cities of Sigmar have a whole host of decent cavalry options, whether that be humans riding things like demigryphs on horses with pistols, or elves riding horses, steers, or even Drakespawn knights riding their vast lizard-like Dracoithian mounts. Cities of Sigmar really does have a ton of options, and a lot of good options for cavalry. But we're going to talk about armies here in Cities of Sigmar that specifically focus on cavalry, and I don't think there's any better example of that in Cities of Sigmar than an army formed with the Hammerhallian Lancers Battalion. This is a battalion you can get in a Cities of Sigmar army if you're playing under the Hammerhall subfaction allegiance, and it literally is a free guild general on a giant griffin, and then a whole bunch of free guild riding some demigryphs, or demigryph knights rather. This battalion is actually pretty good, and you can even fit a double battalion in a 2,000 point army and really make this army go to town and have a great, very alpha strike demigryph heavy force. There's other options for cavalry, and you can go, I guess, a more non-traditional style of cavalry if you decide to go with Tempest Eye and take their Aetherguard Windrunners battalion, where you can choose to have Pistoliers and Outriders in the battalion alongside a free guild general and griffin once more, but also have some carriage on airships. Whether or not you want to add that into an all cavalry army is up to you, but there's definitely options there. This obviously plays a little bit less like a traditional cavalry army. It's not all about lancers and shields and knights charging, but rather about skirting around the flanks. Much more a very light cavalry, archer cavalry style of army. There are other options as well. You can definitely build something around Wild Riders, though they don't have as many buff access because their heroes are generally on foot and not mounted, but maybe Anvil of Apotheosis could fix that for you. And the last thing is you've got your Drakespawn Knights, who are a much more defensive style cavalry unit, but backed up by the Drakespawn leader option, which is the Dreadlord on Black Dragon, a fantastic, cheap monster piece to play around with. Cities of Sigmar have a host of great options as mentioned, and I really do think they are one of the best armies to play all cavalry of in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Next up, we have the Idoenth Deepkin. Idoenth Deepkin are probably the most competitive option out of this entire list that I put together, as the Idoenth Deepkin ill list is rightly feared across tournament scenes around the world. It is one of those armies that's always been good and just has never gone below anything but good, really. While they're not traditionally a cavalry army, or while they don't look like a traditional cavalry army, being they're not riding horses or any sort of horse-like mount, they're instead riding these flying eels and sharks and turtles that travel across mystic, unseeable ocean as they come up on land. They are a cavalry army as far as I'm concerned. They have a host of options in the cavalry range, including both character and some gigantic turtles, along with sharks, and then the generic eel cavalry that everyone knows all about. They're a fantastic army just to play and paint as well, as you can go to town with a whole host of different colour schemes that make these models look fantastic. definitely, if you're looking for a very competitive all-cavalry army, I don't think you can go past Idoenth Deepkin. Number 3, we have the Ossiarch Bonereapers, and this one might sound like a weird one to some people, as the army only really has one true cavalry option in its units and one true cavalry leader, but the Ossiarch Bonereapers make for a fantastic all-mounted army. In fact, they have a sub-faction called the Staliarch Lords who really help this type of build. They give you run and charge to begin with as being part of Staliarch Lords, and they have a command ability to let units with a mount, so all your cavalry get retreat and charge as well. This makes your cavalry army always able to charge every turn because you're able to pull in and out at will and when you want, and really just helps them do what they do best. The Cavalry Death Riders are an amazing looking kit and not that bad a war scroll either, in all honesty. I think they're one of the most overlooked war scrolls in the game, as people always tend to go for, I guess, the Mortek Guard and other things within the Ossiarch Bonereapers book. The Staliarch Lords and the Cavalry Death Riders are definitely an option worth considering. They've got 3 wounds apiece and a 4-up armor save and a 12-inch move, so they're by no means the fastest of cavalry, but they're pretty decently fast when all things considered. Plus, let's not forget, you've got all your normal relentless discipline stuff where you can make runs certain amounts and all that sort of stuff as well. Probably you want to combine this with a little bit of non-cavalry stuff, but you can definitely have the majority of your force in cavalry and just have a few backup pieces here and there. It's also worth, even the command trait helps make your Lord with their unstoppable charge that little bit better, doing some more hits with that as well. Ossiarch Bonereapers, while not a obvious choice for a great cavalry army, are definitely one that can make a great cavalry army. Number 4 in our list of great cavalry armies, we have the Ogor Mawtribes. Ogor Mawtribes make for a fantastic all-cavalry army, as they have a really cool heavy cavalry infantry unit called the Mournfang Cavalry, and also have access to these giant mounted creatures of Stonehorns and Thundertusks, which can either be hero or non-hero variations. The Start Collecting Box is a fantastic way to get into this army as well, as it gives you everything you need for an all-cavalry army here. And on the table, they're not that bad either. Run Stonehorns up and beat people's in the face. That is literally what this army does, and it does it really well. There's not much that can stand up to a massive ogre charge, and if you can get off multiple of these giant monster trucks and their little friends, I say little metaphorically, they're little in comparison, into your opponent's lines smashing, it'll be a great time for you and a bad time for your opponent. Ogor Mawtribes definitely make one of the best all-cavalry armies in the game, and they're also not that bad in competitive play as well. While ogres are nowhere near top tier, you are going to have a good shot at going 4-1 and maybe even taking out an event with Ogor Mawtribes if they can sneak under and get some really good matchups. If you come up to armies that just can't deal with the damage necessary to hurt your monsters in the early turns or whittle down your big cavalry units, they can be in real big trouble, as these ogres come a-smashing at the door. And last but certainly not least on our list, we have the Slaves to Darkness. They make for a fantastic all-cavalry army when you consider they've got a few options of decent cavalry troops, being either the Chaos Knights or the Vanguard. You've also got the options for Marauder Horsemen in there as well. But for me, Chaos Knights are one of the 2 best options you can take, and either make them no to make them super resilient, or give them some Corn 8 buffs to make them hit like a truck. Next to them, you've also got the Vanguard, who are Chaon's chosen warlords across the mortal realms, and they've got a few different ways they can play. You can either add these in to be some more heavy hitters in your Chaos Knight focused forces, or you could choose to make armies entirely of Vanguard, and potentially even led by the Grand Master of the Apocalypse, Chaon himself. There's a few different ways you can run this, whether you can run them as 6th Circle or some of the other ways you can do this with Slaves to Darkness and making your Vanguard great, or the Knights of the Empty Throne, where the Vanguard actually become your general in the army. There's a bunch of different things you can do with Slaves to Darkness and all cavalry armies, and they're definitely one of the armies I think is greatest for them in the game, and definitely some of the builds you can do here are very competitive. Well, we hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to leave a comment if you thought of anything different than what we did, and leave a like as well and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to come chat with me more and other members of our fine community, you can do so by following the link to our Discord in the description of the video below. Also, while you're here on YouTube, why not go check out my featured channel section? You can find a bunch of other awesome Warhammer Age of Sigmar content creators putting out painting tutorials, battle reports, tactical analysis, and tactical theory, and more besides. Lastly though, we want to give a shout out to everyone who supports the channel via Patreon, Ko-fi, or other financial means, and thank you to James, AJC, JC, Christian Weir, Philip Ward, Soren, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Cowspawn, and James Crowder. Thank you all so much for your support, and if you'd like to help support the channel like these fine people do, you can do so by following the link down in the description of the video below to one of the many ways you can help support the channel. Thank you all for watching again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.